Last week, the cold Arctic. This week, we're probably turning up the heat as we take on the Slugma Ballers, coached by, of course, your mother. They do actually also have a second coach. They're the only team in the league this season with two coaches, but that other guy, I can't think of the last time he played a game or spoke in the Discord, so maybe they really only have one coach at this point. I'm not sure. I'm also not really sure what their win-loss record is. They have been having the most trouble out of anyone so far getting their games actually played. They're probably like 1-4, but I don't think all of their past matchups are resolved yet. But hey, hopefully we won't have any issues and we'll play a fun set this week. Looking at the matchup, they have Sinistcha, Wash Rotom, Therian Thundurus to match up against our Incarnate Thundurus, Klefki, Quillfish, an old friend from a couple of past PDL drafts, Pyroar, Flareon, Slitherwing, Azumarill, Hisuian Samurott, and Electric. There's actually a few Pokemon that I've had in past drafts on here with the Pyroar and the Flareon as well. Now, to be honest, looking over this team at first, I really didn't understand it, but I've watched their replays for the sets that they finished, and I have a bit of a clearer picture now. They tend, so far, to go for a manual rain mode with the Klefki, and of course that makes sense. They have good rain abusers in literally 4 water types, as well as the Thundurus getting accurate Wild Bolt, Storm, or Thunder. And of course the Sinistcha is also protected from fire attacks in rain. And they have tended so far to go for bulky setup modes. So the Azumarill sets up Belly Drum mostly, or the Sinistcha can go for Calm Mind setup, enabled by the Klefki throwing off Prankster Thunder Waves and maybe screens. The Klefki really is the key to this whole team so far, if you will. Or the Sinistcha can support the Azumarill with Hospitality Healing and presumably with stuff like Rage Powder. Looking at things over, also, even though they have 4 water types, there's a good variety of threats here. And all of them function pretty well as rain abusers, notably Quillfish can be a bulky Intimidate set like I used to run all the time, and that might be tempting for them into my very physical offense-heavy team. But of course it also gets Swift Swim and can try to sweep with that in a manual rain mode with Klefki. Hisuian Samurott is a strong attacker on both sides and can boost up its physical attack. Azumarill, of course, is a very dangerous Belly Drum attacker. Rotom Wash can hit hard on the special side, and they do pretty well at avoiding too many overlapping weaknesses, since the Rotom isn't weak to electric and the Quillfish isn't weak to grass, and in fact can threaten grass types with his Poison Stab. They also have coverage against grass types from the Slitherwing and from their fire types. And it was only actually pretty late in my prep that I realized that they also have a manual sun mode that they can go for if they want. I haven't seen them do it in the replays, and it's not a mode that I would be very confident in, but the Klefki does also get Prankster Sunny Day, and it can give a boost probably in the attack stat to the Slitherwing with Photosynthesis. And of course the Pyroar, as their fastest Pokemon, can throw off boosted fire attacks. Like I said, it doesn't seem like the strongest sun mode. I definitely find it less worrisome than the rain modes that they've been bringing in past weeks. But that's the basic gist of their team as I understand it. The Klefki sets up probably Weather and also spams Thunder Wave, and they have a lot of rain abusers, and they have good tools with the Klefki and the Sinistcha to support Azumarill in a bulky setup, or Sinistcha can set up itself. I have no idea what the Electric does. Honestly, I forgot they had it. Pretty far into my prep, but they probably also have some other game plans that they haven't had a chance to show yet, so who knows what's going to happen. Now, in terms of my team this week, I didn't have a ton of time to build, and so I might have cut some corners here and there, but I'm reasonably happy with what I'm bringing, I think, and I've tried to make a couple of deliberate adjustments from last week. Even though my team really does have that flexibility that you value in a draft league team, there are a number of different ways you can go with it. I was definitely falling into patterns over the first few weeks of the season, which was fine as the wins kept piling up, but I was bringing pretty similar sets week after week on different Pokemon with a lot of focus on bulk. And I think I was kind of punished for that last week when my Pokemon were just not doing enough damage to break through the very strong threats on Reckless Trico's team. And so I've made a deliberate effort this week to do something different and to test out a little bit more of what my team can do, and a deliberate effort to skew some of my sets more toward offense than I was doing last week, although as you'll see, that might not mean as much as it sounds like right now. But I am trying to shake things up a bit and not be too predictable. And it starts with me finally bringing something that I have wanted to bring at some point all season, and that is Nasty Plot Thunderous. I think a more offensive Thunderous makes a lot of sense into the water spam on the opposing team. Given that the best thing I can say for their water types is that into an electric type matchup is that one of them isn't weak to electric. And they don't have a whole lot to throw at an electric type. They don't have a dragon type. They do have a grass type in Sinistcha, but it can't redirect Wild Bolt Storm since that's a spread attack. They do have their own Thunderous with Volt Absorb, and that's the reason that I brought Ice Terra Blast this week. I considered Rock because it's more spammable into their team, because one thing they do have is a lot of ice resistances with all their water and fire types. But I think I like Ice more because it doesn't open up a weakness to Aqua Jet from, take your pick, Azumarill, Quillfish, or Hisuian Samurott. I really don't like bringing water weaknesses this week, and so I prefer Terra Ice over Terra Rock for that reason. It's still a pretty bulky set. Most of my speed control this week is just being naturally faster than their team, so this Thunderous, yeah, it outspeeds anything that isn't boosted. Obviously, Swift Swim Quillfish, or if their Thunderous gets up in agility, then those Pokemon are faster. But otherwise, it should get off the Wild Bolt Storm before they can do much, or of course they can use priority attacks as well. I don't feel like I need... Wild Bolt Storm and Terra Blast have such strong coverage into their team. I didn't feel like I needed a ton of special attack investment, so I have gone for a decent amount of bulk still. And the goal, of course, is to get up a Nasty Plot and just try to go crazy. And we have a few pieces further in here to try to enable that mode. But first, before we get to all of those, we have Iron Leaves coming this week again. This is a lot of speed investment, but it does still get an attack boost from the booster energy. Since I'm not bringing electric terrain this week, I do need that to get the boost. But yeah, 252 attack. With 252 attack, there's no way to avoid an attack boost, and I don't want to. I want the extra power this week. Plus, again, Iron Leaves is naturally faster than anything on their team except Pyroar. Yep, and this set makes sure of that. I haven't really been feeling most of the time like Iron Leaves needs a lot of coverage. I might end up missing Sacred Sword in this matchup. Missing as in being disappointed that I don't have it. Of course, not the way you usually think about missing in Pokemon. But, yeah, but they don't have... I don't think they have a Dark type, at least before Terra. Oh, they do. They have Hisuian Samurott, but it's weak to Leaf Blade. And then the Klefki resists Psyblade and Leaf Blade, but it's not much of an offensive threat. The thing that really, I think, makes Iron Leaves an interesting bring this week is Quick Guard, because again, they have a lot of priority with the Prankster Klefki, which likes to throw off Thunder Wave, judging by the replays, and with a bunch of different Aqua Jet users, plus First Impression from the Slitherwing. First Impression is generally a pretty easy move to protect around, so I also have that option. But if I want to do something with a teammate and not use Protect on that, I do have the Quick Guard to stop that. Basically, Quick Guard, if Iron Leaves is on the field, shuts down a lot of the most threatening stuff that they can bring, especially given that my team relies to an extent on having naturally higher speed stats. Terra Dragon, instead of... So I have been bringing Terra Fire a lot for the fire resist. Terra Dragon, of course, also has a fire resist without opening up a weakness to water. In fact, it keeps the water resist. Yeah, it does make it weak to a Play Rough from Azumarill, but hopefully we get off a Leaf Blade into Azumarill before we have to worry about that. I think the Dragon is overall the safer one here. And of course, before Terra, Iron Leaves is a Grass type, and so unaffected by Sinistcha's Rage Powder, so that's nice. I realized in the middle of that I just completely skipped over Thunderous's item. I couldn't really think of an item that I wanted to bring on it. Life Orb didn't really seem like the move when it still is fairly bulky. I could have brought, like, Wise Glasses or Magnet. Magnet might have been the call, but given that I really didn't feel strongly no matter how much I thought about it, I thought I'd just bring the funny, meme, potentially game-saving item. So we're running Bright Powder. And of course, Booster Energy on the Iron Leaves. Moving on, we have, of course, our star support Pokemon to enable some of the setup. We have Magmar. Magmar, being naturally weak to water, is not ideal here, but of course... They do have 4 water types, but they also have, 7 other Pokemon. We might well get into a situation where Magmar is a useful wall into something like Pyroar, Flareon, or a setup Sinistcha. And in any case, Follow Me is always nice to have, and Helping Hand is always nice to have to bust damage calculators. Clear Smog, because as I said, they've tended towards setup-oriented game plans with Azumarill and Sinistcha. And so we may get a chance to take away their stat boosts. It would be pretty funny if we clicked Clear Smog into Azumarill on the same turn that it sets up a Belly Drum. I doubt they'll let us do that, but it would be a pretty good flex, I think. They have been running Terra Steel Sinistcha in the past, but Heat Wave can pick that up, and otherwise Heat Wave is just here to be a spammable attack. The Eviolite is obvious, the Flame Body is obvious. I had Terra Grass with the Sinistcha's Rage Powder in mind. Of course, this does also turn the water weakness into a resistance, and I considered running Terra Dragon like I did on Iron Leaves for that reason, but I like Grass because it enables that moment where potentially I get off a Clear Smog into Azumarill while they try to redirect with Sinistcha's Rage Powder. Of course, if we go Terra Grass, then the redirection doesn't work, and yeah, and then we get the Clear Smog off, and Azumarill throws away its hit points and its Citrus Berry for nothing. I don't think it'll happen, but it would be a nice moment. The usual mixed bulk on this set. This one is... It's hard to calc for everything on my opponent's team, because especially if they bring their Rain mode, they have a ton of threats. This one at least has a small chance of taking a bunch of hits. I think it takes +2 Life Orb Thunder from Thundurus, but at the very least it has a chance to survive that. And it has a chance to survive a bunch of different rain-boosted water attacks from Hisui and Samurott, though it's really hard to guarantee anything. But I think I found about the right spread where if I'm lucky enough, the rolls could turn out in my favor, even though they don't necessarily favor me in terms of their odds. And shout out again to Showdown, because this is another one where the new feature in the Teambuilder to make sure you have to make sure you're not running an inefficient EV spread really shook up what I was thinking. I don't know what I was doing with my Magmar sets before that feature was introduced. Maybe I don't want to look back at that. But anyway, moving right along, we are bringing Sylveon this week. I swear I am keeping an eye out for a matchup where I don't want to bring Throat Spray. I think that Spec Sylveon or something will have a moment at some point, maybe even like a Citrus Berry, but there has not yet been a week that I don't want Throat Spray. It's just so good on Pixelate Hyper Voice Sylveon. Otherwise, the set is pretty straightforward. A bunch of physical bulk to take hits from Hisui and Samurott, I think, as well as Azumarill. Not terribly worried about the Slitherwing because Sylveon resists both of its stabs before Terra, which is pretty nice when Iron Leaves in particular has to watch out for the Slitherwing. Magmar and Sylveon are both handy pivots on that. But otherwise, it's pretty simple. It's the same kind of set that I've been bringing all season, but in this case, I really don't see much need to deviate. Terra Dragon, for the reasons I talked about with Iron Leaves, it is a water resistance that overall is pretty solid defensively into my opponent's team because a lot of their attackers run water, fire, electric, or grass attacks. Everything Dragon resists, and they have just one, well, they have two fairy types, but only one offensive one. Hyper Voice is pretty self-explanatory. Weather Ball could be funny cheese if they bring Rain into something like their Pyroar, or into their Slitherwing if they bring Sun. I don't know that there'll be much use for it, but we'll see. I did... Their fairy resists other than Klefki are their two fire types, so I had that in mind when I picked Weather Ball. I thought about running Baby Doll Eyes to nerf physical attacking Samurott or something, but it's not that good. You know, a mere one-stage attack drop is not that good into Azumarill. And instead, given that they've shown an interest in running setup game plans, I think Yawn is the much more effective disruptive move for that. Forcing a switch and potentially, again, kind of like Magmar's Clear Smog, potentially making it very costly for them to go for a Belly Drum with Azumarill, or even Calm Mind Sinistcha in this case. Given that, maybe I should switch to Terra Grass on this as well, but I don't know. I'll think about it before we play the game in a couple days. And then there were a couple different directions I could go with the last two Pokemon, but what I've decided on starts with Barraskewda. My opponent has brought Rain in every set they've played so far. Obviously, I've sort of designed this team without bringing Rain on my Thundurus, so to some extent I'm kind of hoping they bring their Rain and I get to take advantage of it. It would be nice to throw off Boosted Liquidation and Aqua Jet. But either way, Barraskewda is naturally faster than everything on their team. And of course it's a strong attacker. Given that speed advantage, I feel like I probably don't need Swift Swim this week, and so I am running Propeller Tail to get around a Rage Powder Sinistra. I did consider Safety Goggles Swift Swim, which definitely is better in some situations, but I feel like Barraskewda is such a glass cannon Pokemon. I probably want the power of Life Orb whenever I can have it. What else? Liquidation is pretty straightforward. Terra Electric, Terra Blast is to threaten Azumarill or Samurott so they can't set up and run away with the game in front of Barraskewda. Crunch threatens the Sinistra, and then I had Protect in the last slot for a while, but like I said, my speed control is mostly just naturally higher speed stats this week, and considering all the priority that they have and the potential to set up something like Agility Thunderous, I think that I do need an emergency button into those threats, so having my own priority that goes first, I think, is important enough to drop Protect on this set for that, and maybe I get a Rain Boost on it as well. And finally, coming off the bench for the very first time all season, and really tying this team together pretty nicely, I think we finally are bringing Persian. I actually got this idea when I watched one of my opponent's replays where someone else in this league has Ambipom, which plays a fairly similar game to Persian with Technician, Fake Out, and a bunch of support options, and it was running circles around my opponent's team. They were really struggling with that level of disruption, and so I thought bringing my Technician, Fake Out Pokemon was pretty solid here, and here it is. I have Taunt to make it harder for them to set up to potentially ruin Sinistra's or Klefki's day. I have thrown my own Rain Dance onto this Pokemon in case I want to give Thundurus the accuracy boost or Barraskewda the power boost and my opponent isn't doing it for me. So I'm not necessarily bringing a game plan that's focused on my own Rain Dance, but I do have the option if I want it. And then I just threw on Foul Play to get off a strong hit into something, even if they're spamming Intimidate with Quillfish. Maybe I could consider like Icy Wind or something, so I have a little more speed control, but I think this is probably okay as it is. Unlike Barraskewda, which is running Terra Electric for offense, this is Terra Electric Persian purely so that Klefki can't paralyze it with Thunder Wave. In that case, actually, Terra Dark might be better. Maybe I'll change that, because that stops Klefki from doing anything else to it as well. I probably should just change that to Terra Dark, and I probably will. Naturally faster than anything on their team, like Barraskewda. A lot of my speed stats are clustered close together, and one thing I'll have to remember is that Persian is 1 point faster than Barraskewda, which is 1 point faster than Thundurus, but I did make sure to avoid any ties there. And then I wasn't really sure what to do with the EVs. The speed, I just explained. The Focus Sash means that I don't have to worry so much about being bulky, and so I put in 252 attack just to maximize the Technician boosted Fake Out damage, and then the rest into bulk. There wasn't really anything else to do with it. The more I think about it, yeah, I mean, Electric doesn't really give me any useful resistances. I definitely should just change it to Terra Dark, unless I'm afraid of Azumarill or Slitherwing. But no, I think I don't think there's any significant disadvantage to Dark. So that's the team this week. We'll use support from the likes of Magmar and Persian to try to set up Nasty Plot Thundurus. I think that's our main offensive engine. We have Iron Leaves with a mix of offensive set and trying to shut down their priority with Quick Guard, and then Sylveon and Barraskewda are just strong. So hopefully we'll get the set played without any issues, and you'll see the battle section of the video in just a moment. Man, I'm tired. We did have a lot of scheduling trouble on my opponent's end, and for a while there I thought that it might not happen at all, but here we are. 3 things before we get into it. Number 1, I did change Persian to Terra Dark. Number 2, I remembered why Sylveon is not Terra Grass. It's so that it can Terra out of the poison weakness against Quillfish. Not that that's going to be relevant here, but I have stuck with Terra Dragon. And third, what does my team do? I think I try to get going with the Nasty Plot Thundurus, right? Supported by Magmar or Persian, with other damage output from these guys. Barraskewda notably is very fast, even though I'm not bringing Swift Swim this week. And I have a bunch of tools to deal with something like an Azumarill setup with the Quick Guard, Yawn, Clear Smog. Those are the main ones, I think. So good luck, have fun to my opponent. Let's see, they brought Sinistra, Klefki, their Thundurus, Slitherwing, Rotom Wash, and Azumarill. So this does look like exactly the kind of team they've been bringing all season so far, where they probably try to set up with... I mean, they actually have a lot of setup options here. I feel like I'm pretty safe leading Thunderous Iron Leaves into this and just trying to get off a nasty plot without the support from Magmar or Persian. Because Iron Leaves is not very obviously threatened by anything that they've brought except Slitherwing. We can play around that. I suppose the Sinistcha could get a burn with Machagacha, but I think having that quick guard next to Thunderous right off the bat could be pretty strong. I guess I bring... Well, hold on. I guess I bring a Slitherwing switch in then. It doesn't have to be Magmar. It could be Sylveon. Definitely look like they might have brought a Rain mode. I think I'm more inclined to bring Sylveon, at least in Game 1. And... Am I really leaving both Persian and Magmar on the bench and bringing Barraskewda? I think I might be. I don't know what my opponent's talking about here, if you can see that. I think you can. I suppose I'll... I was talking. I suppose I'll bring Barraskewda Game 1, and we can adjust the rest of the way. Okay. Yeah, I mean... Okay. I think they were just concerned about their showdown connection or something like that. I think I go for the nasty plot for sure. And then Thunderous can't be Thunder Waved. It doesn't especially care about a Will-O-Wisp. Iron Leaves might care about a Will-O-Wisp. I could just protect Iron Leaves here. I could try to throw off a Leaf Blade into the Rotom. I think Nasty Plot Protect is a decent solid play here. And see what they try to go for with this lead, because it's really not that obvious to me. Maybe they're bringing Nasty Plot Rotom? I don't know. They just protect it. Okay. And the Klefki goes for Foul Play into my Iron Leaves. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I can Terra Dragon to turn off the Foul Play weakness. Keep a resistance to Rotom Stabs. Of course, not bringing Persian means I can't set up Rain, so the Wild Bolt Storm is a little risky, but I definitely go for that here. The problem is obviously I can eat a Thunder Wave, but I think I'm just gonna... I also could switch to Sylveon, which throws away the boost from the booster energy and maybe makes me a little more vulnerable to Rotom, but I actually think I'm good with that here, instead of gambling into a possible Thunder Wave or something. As they switch out to their Thunderous, so they get that electric immunity. We don't quite knock out the Klefki. I think I'm just gonna Terra Ice Terra Blast here and Hyper Voice and just try to blast, just try to blast them. It's Game 1. They might let me do that, so we'll try Terra Ice Terra Blast into the Thunderous. And yeah, I'll just throw off a Hyper Voice here. Of course, Weather Ball is also not that useful when I haven't brought my Rain. We just one-shot the Thunderous, and Hyper Voice finishes off the Klefki through the light screen. Does a very good start here. They're left with Rotom and Sinistcha. I still don't really get what the Rotom is for here. The team I mentioned up front looks very much like what they've been running through the season, but this mode is not familiar to me. In any case, I think I'll just try to hit the Sinistcha hard, and I'll go for a Yawn into the Rotom so that I'm not just ignoring it. They could Terra something, of course. They could Terra out of the Ice weakness on the Sinistcha. They're thinking about their play. As the Terra Blast takes out the Sinistcha, Hydro Pump misses my Thunderous. That's unfortunate for them, and they've already said GG, as I can just Wild Bolt Storm and Hyper Voice through this Rotom. The Hydro Pump does a little more than half. That's potentially good to know, and with the Rotom asleep, we'll see who gets the KO here. And it's Thunderous. So GG on Game 1. They probably won't make it that easy again in Game 2. That mode did work extremely well. Although the Iron Leaves lead was not as strong as I'd hoped. Or at least I was a little bit passive in how I used it. So given that I'm not that confident that they'll let me just set up the Thunderous so easily again, I think there might be something to be said for leading Thunderous Persian this time. I can still bring Sylveon in the back and probably Iron Leaves as well. Thunderous Persian or Thunderous Magmar, they brought 2 water types and they led with 1 last game, and I don't really want to be forced to Terra Magmar. So yeah, we'll try this game 2. Thunderous Persian, Sylveon, Iron Leaves. Don't know what adjustments my opponent will make, of course. They might have a random Covert Cloak or Terra Ghost on something, but I haven't brought Persian all season, so I don't know how hard they prepped for it. They have the Slitherwing this game. I feel like again, my Thundurus is just not a... There's no reason that I know of for my Thundurus to be afraid of the Klefki, especially since we know now there's dual screens, and that's half of its move slots gone. Did it use another move in game 1? Foul play. Yeah, but we still don't really care about that, so I think it's pretty safe to just fake out the Slitherwing and go for Nasty Plot. And they might even let me get a Rain Dance next turn. They go for their Light Screen, of course. I think I am going to Rain Dance and Wild Bolt Storm here. I'm really not afraid of the Klefki at this point. I'm not even really thinking about going for the Terra Dark on Persian. And then, of course, the Terra Ice Thundurus put in so much work last game. That might be good to preserve again this time. A Fake Out did so much damage, by the way. That's attack invested, Technician Fake Out. Love to see it. Swap out their Thundurus, so they will once again get the benefit of the Volt Absorb. They're probably not just gonna let me Aeroblast them again, but I think I'm gonna try it. I don't know what they have to stop it. And still don't know Klefki's 4th move. It might be worth just throwing off a taunt into that in case to cover for a protect on the Thundurus. At least I get something out of this turn. As they do protect. The Thunderwave Klefki. Right, I didn't play around that properly this time. Fair enough by them. I'm just going to go for a Terra Blast and hope that I survive whatever they throw at me. And I'm going to swap to Sylveon, because that seems like a pretty safe switch right now. As they actually go out to a Azumarill. Foul Play does like nothing to Sylveon. Well, I don't want to let the Azumarill set up for free, so I'll just Wild Bolt Storm, and they haven't Terra'd yet, right? Do I Yawn or do I Weather Ball? Or not Weather Ball. Do I Yawn or Hyper Voice? I feel pretty safe to Hyper Voice. This Azumarill should take a lot of damage, even if it does have some weird Terra type. Weather Ball wasn't really on the table. I just misspoke. Like I said, I'm kind of tired. But swap back out to their Thundurus. I'm not exactly worried about healing it when it's at full anyway. And that Azumarill is not getting a Belly Drum off now. Or was it trying to, I guess. Unfortunate for my opponent that I missed that play rough. That sucks for them. That they missed that play rough. Man, I can't speak very well right now, but it's Sunday night. You get what you get. I'll go for the Terra Blast and the Hyper Voice. They're just swapping around. Trying to stall out my rain, I guess. They can Thunder Wave my Sylveon, but I don't think I care. Yeah, they're just playing this very passively. I mean, they got some chip on my Thunderous there, which maybe gives them an out with their Thunderous, since mine is paralyzed. Here's the Slitherwing. I'll try to protect around a possible first impression, but also Sylveon might just claim 2 KOs here. As yeah, I mean, it resists the first impression. Actually, I guess they figured I'd protect Thunderous, but okay, we don't KO Slitherwing, but we knock it very low. And we've got a pretty safe Hyper Voice here. They don't have Light Screen up anymore. Both of my guys take the Wild Bolt Storm. They knock out Thunderous, but it looks like the Hyper Voice has taken 2 KOs here. And that is the set. That was a fun one. I played that one a little differently from the rest of the season, and I enjoyed it. But we're definitely going to have an interesting matchup next week. I can promise you that already. So until then, bye-bye, a go-go.